Buchman with the Potomac Bead Company, and today I am going to make for you some pumpkin patch earrings and a little stretch bracelet. Kind of goes in the theme of this season that it's getting fall and it's getting colder out, and we're traveling to pumpkin patches for school trips and with kids. So I figured I'd make a little pumpkin patch bracelet and a pair of pumpkin patch earrings. I was going to do a pair of earrings, and then I kind of got addicted to them and started making a ton of them. And I'm going to show you guys how to do both a set of earrings as well as the bracelet. The cool thing when you're thinking about this is it really encompasses all different mediums. So we're going to be working with threading and doing needle and seed beads. We're going to be working with wire, doing head pins and then attaching to ear wires. And then we're going to be doing basic stringing by stringing these onto a stretchy bracelet and having them hang down like charms. To get started, if you need any of these materials to do either the earrings or to make the fun bracelet, either way, you can go to the left-hand side of this video to the little drop-down menu. There we'll put links for you that you can get any of the materials that are used in this video. Again, it's a great video to share with a friend also because it really does encompass all the different styles and types of jewelry making that we have kind of available. The whole pumpkins are made basically out of this melon shape that we're going to achieve with the crescent beads. You can see that I have a bunch of different sizes, and then I started getting creative with adding in some other colors to our little pumpkins here as well, thinking that not all pumpkins in the pumpkin patch are necessarily bright orange. The colors that I have chosen to work with for the actual earrings, I stuck with one color. And this is the crescent in the Hyacinth suede gold. That's a nice bright orange color. I then am mixing in the plain hyacinth. And then just to give a little bit of color to my pumpkin patch bracelet, I've mixed in a couple of the metallic copper, a couple of the Pacifica honeydew, and then a couple of the polychrome olive mauve, which is a nice kind of deep Christmas green. Great color too if you are planning on doing something for the holidays. You can have that one on hand. The pumpkins are really similar to designs probably that you've seen. It's really the most simplistic form of the crescents, stringing them together in a circle. I've also done a necklace version of this too, called Slice of Heaven. Similar design, similar idea. So if you want to check that out, use different colors, you can check that out as well. At the bottom and the tops of the pumpkins, for a lot of them, I'm using the Czech Daisies, which the Czech Daisies are a 5mm daisy-shaped bead, and I've chosen to use the frosted Peridot AB that's going to sit at the top and the bottom of my earring. And then along my pumpkin patch, I'll show you variations where I did use it at the top, I did at the bottom, not at the top. So I kind of changed it up just to get that varied pumpkin design. In addition to my crescents and the Czech daisy, I also have the Demi round bead. If you're unfamiliar with the Demi round, it's a Toho bead in a size 11 that I'm working with. They also produce an 8, but this is a Toho Demi round in 11.0. It's about half the width, a little tiny bit more than half the width of a regular 11.0 seed bead. So it almost looks like a mini O bead, but it is produced in Japan rather than the Czech Republic. I'm using this to space out my crescent beads so you don't see a lot of the thread. If you want your pumpkins to be brighter orange, you could also just use a 15.0 seed bead in place of the Demi round. I'm going to be using the Demi round in the Olympic bronze color. It's a nice kind of fall color and has that nice bronzy coppery look to it. In addition to the Demi round here, I'm also going to bring in that bronze color. When I string my bracelet, I'm going to be using the Potomac Crystal Rondelles in the metallic bronze color. And I'm going to string those in between the pumpkins and create that little pumpkin patch bracelet. To do the bracelet, we are going to be using stretchy string, and I'm using 1mm elastic cording. And I have some super new glue ready to tie, once I tie the knot, to glue the knot closed. To string my pumpkins, I'm using some Wildfire beading thread, and I figured I'd use the green color because the pumpkins have a fair amount of green in them. I'm using the 0.006. You could also use the 0.008 for this. Either one is going to work, and really any color you don't see the thread that much. I have a size 12 or a size 10 beading needle here that's going to be used, and you use about 5 feet of thread for all of these pumpkins. So they really only use about 7 to 8 inches of thread a piece. All of the little pumpkins here I also have strung on head pins. So this is a 2-inch head pin. You can use 2-inch, you can use 3-inch. If you don't want to do some curling or twisting at the top, you can use 1.5 inch as well. But 2-inch are a good size. This is a 2-inch 21 or 22 gauge head pin. So whichever gauge you want, even 24 will work for the head pin. And then if you want to do a pair of earrings in addition to the pumpkin patch bracelet, you'll just need 2 ear wires. And these are just regular old, the regular fishhook ear wires that I'm going to be using to do those. Also, for the earrings, I did make the pumpkin a little bit fatter and a little bit bigger. So, hidden inside the pumpkin, and to kind of keep it stable and in place, I have 2 4mm Swarovski Bicones in the Hyacinth color, in that orange color. You really don't see them at all, so if you have a different color at home, you can slide that in. You could also just put 2 4mm beads in, or you can sneak 2 of your Rondelles in there as well. So I just had the crystals handy, so I put 2 of those in if you do want to do a little bit bigger pumpkin like I did for your earring set. We'll go ahead and make the bigger pumpkin first, and then we'll get into some of the smaller ones and doing some wire working. Because it does require some wire working here at the top, I want you to have your pliers handy. To have your pliers handy, I like a bent nose pliers, or you can use a straight nose, that's up to you, but I prefer the bent. I have a nice wire cutters, flush cutters, and I have my round nose pliers as well, which is going to make that nice rounded loop right at the top. I am working on a nice workable bead mat surface, and I also have my Wildfire cord cutter handy because that really is used a lot because each pumpkin you're going to start and end your thread. Like I said, to get started, I'm going to start with the first design, making the pumpkin earring, and then we'll go into the bracelet because it's all the exact same, just kind of changing up the numbers and varying it a little bit. For the pumpkin design, you do want to get whatever crescent color you want to use. And again, I used that Hyacinth suede gold color. And I made this one here that is 9 crescents wide, basically. So you want to pour out 9 of your Hyacinth crescents, and then a little pile of your Demi rounds, and 2 of your frosted Peridot Czech Daisies, and also those 2 crystals, so keep those all handy. So we're going to go ahead and get started, ready for our earring. If you think you do want to join in and make the pumpkin patch then, again, you can start out with about 4 feet of thread, 5 feet of thread, and usually about 8 inches or so. 6 to 8 inches will get you each pumpkin. So you can start off with a longer piece, and then you don't have to constantly be feeding and going into your needle. So to start each pumpkin, I have my thread and needle, and I'm just going to hold the end of my thread, just pinching it. I'm going to pick up the 9 crescents with a demi round in between. When I pick up the crescents, you want to make sure that they're all facing the same direction. So I have them kind of crescent down, and I'm going through that right hand hole. You're going to pick up each one and separate each with your demi round. And you can see they're just going to kind of hang out there on the needle. I don't bother to let them drop to the end of the thread because I have my hand down there, and then I have to hold them at the end too. So right now holding the thread is enough. Once I get all 9 on, then we're going to pull it into a circle. The nice thing about these, you can make them any size that you want. This larger size here creates a larger opening at the top. So that's why we're kind of using this as our earring, as our little focus piece. So I have all my 9 crescents here, separated out with a demi round, and I have them just hanging out on the needle. I'm going to let them drop down to the very base of my thread, take that thread end that I was holding, and simply tie a knot. I usually leave about 1.5 inches of thread, just something that I can hold on to, and tie the actual thread end then when we get to the end around. So you can see right away, again, like I said, this is the most simplistic form. I'm not doing anything new here with this pumpkin form or this shape of the crescent. I'm tying it around in a circle. And if you have one that doesn't want to behave, just kind of push that down. I'm then going to take my needle and my thread and go through the second hole of the crescent. So the first hole I have off to the left. The second hole here I'm putting my needle through on the right hand side. It's going to expose a little bit of thread in between the crescent. Don't worry about it. You really won't see it. Now what I'm going to do is connect that second hole to the crescents by simply sewing in a demi round between each crescent. So that's what gets that look of the two demi rounds sitting right next to it. This next crescent hole is a good example. Sometimes during manufacturing, the crescents, any 2-hole bead, 1 hole can be blocked. If you take your needle, you can usually punch out kind of that last little bit that's blocked. Sew into it. And that's going to keep you going around in a circle. And you're going to keep going around until you have 9 more demi rounds in between those crescents. So you have the demi rounds that you're just stringing right in between the crescents here. Getting those in place. Once you get back to the beginning, you're going to add in your last crescent. Sew through the demi round and the next crescent as well. So I'm stringing through that last crescent, adding in that demi round. Then I'm going to take my thread and needle, so it's in a different spot than where I jumped last time, and I'm going to take my thread and needle from the right hand hole over to the left hand hole, through the crescent, the demi round, and the crescent, and that's going to bring the thread and needle out right near my beginner thread. Simply take the 2 ends and tie knots. So I'm just doing square knots, right over left, left over right, and tying those knots. Grab your thread burner then, and I didn't bother to glue any of my thread ends on the pumpkins that I already made because they're really not getting that much tension. If you want to and you like to glue and you feel more secure, that's fine. But actually when you burn down the thread ends here, it's going to create a little stop right at that knot, and it's not going to feed through because of it. So you can see on this pumpkin, the hole of the actual pumpkin is pretty large. So it has a fairly large opening. What that is going to do once you get your head pin is it's going to fall right through the bottom of the pumpkin. Because of that, I'm going to use the daisy spacer right at the bottom of my head pin. Then I'm going to put on my pumpkin. So you can see the pumpkin kind of hangs off to the side and moves around. That's where we're going to use these Hyacinth Swarovski crystals to stabilize that pumpkin. And I'm going to simply push them down right to the base of the pumpkin. And those 2 4mm, it's hard to see here, they fit exactly inside, so you don't see it at all. On the top then, put another one of your little Czech daisies. And then to make the stem here at the top, I picked up 2 of those demi rounds and use those. You can make it longer, you can make it shorter, you can do no stem. It really is just a cool design that you can change up and kind of make your own. Once you have the pumpkin on the head pin with the crystals inside and the little Czech daisy on top and the demi rounds, go ahead and get your round nose pliers. I'm going to hold the pumpkin down towards the base of the head pin, pushing those beads down. Taking my pliers, I'm going to leave about 1/8 of an inch and turn that round nose plier. So holding the pliers there, I want to make it so that the wire then comes over the top of the round nose pliers right till it touches the pumpkin. Switch then from the top jaw of your round nose pliers simply by twisting them in your hand to the bottom jaw and complete that loop. So you can see it completes the nice little eye pin there. All I'm going to do then, you can grab your bent nose pliers if you want, kind of hold to the back, and you're just going to twist that around the base, doing a coiled eye pin 1 time. With the end of it, we're going to make it look like a little curly Q, like it's kind of a little branch or little stem coming off the end of the pumpkin. You're going to hold at the very end of your round nose pliers where you can see the wire, but you can't actually feel it kind of poking through the top. And we're going to actually push the curl out the front end of the pliers. I want you to take the wire and bend it around the round nose, constantly kind of switching how you're holding the round nose. You can see my hand is rotating, and that's going to rotate that coil right off the top. And so you get that nice little curly Q coil right off the top of the head pin. You have your cute little pumpkin. Whenever you're opening the ear wire, you're just going to push to the side of the ear wire. Sometimes the loop is big enough that you can actually go in the front, or you can take it to the back of the pliers and just close it up. So there you have your cute little pumpkin earrings that you can make very simply with those crescent beads. So again, I got a little bit of an addiction going on for sure. So the addiction started that I started to do the pumpkins and experiment with the sizes. Did I want big pumpkins? Did I want small pumpkins? What size pumpkins did I want? And because I had a lot of extra thread on my needle, I kept going. And then I went over to our crescent wall and said, oh, the pumpkins are not always just completely orange. And I think in a pumpkin patch, you tend to see more different colors of pumpkins. So I decided to grab some of the other colors as well, that honeydew, the polychrome olive, and the metallic copper, and join them in. Kind of having no rhyme or reason, I just started making different sizes of pumpkins. The smallest one that I made that I think looks the best is going to use about 6 crescents. I've done some 5 ones, but the 6 look better. And making little piles of the crescents did the same thing. So just poured out a pile and said, okay, I've got 4 there of that color. I'll use 1 more of this guy and dump out 1 more of my polychrome and start there. The demi rounds you probably already have laying around. Same thing, just grab the end of your thread and you're just going to put on the crescents in whatever color order you want. You could also do, one of the girls here was saying, oh, you should do a whole bracelet with the white pumpkin because that's the prettiest, or you should do whole pumpkins with gold and white pumpkins. So you could really change up the color and the design to really make it your own and do whatever color combination you want in. Just like we did with the pumpkin where we had 9, after you put on 6, drop it down to the bottom of your thread, and we're going to tie a knot. Right over left, left over right, and I usually do a 3rd one just for good measure. With the smaller beads, you can see a lot more crescents kind of want to pop up. Just make sure before you get too far, push those down. Take your thread and needle then from the left-hand hole to the right-hand hole of the crescents. And we're going to go ahead and pour out a couple more of our demi rounds and get those in between as well. Like I said, it's really fun to make different sizes, so you can say, oh yeah, I'll do a 5 pumpkin, I'll do a 6 pumpkin, 7, 8, and really change up. If you want to do any more pumpkins that are 9 or 10, you can actually use the metallic bronze rondelle in that 3x4 millimeter that we'll be using for the bracelet. So if you need any more of those. And I'm just simply stringing. Get that tail out of the way if that happens to get twisted in. And simply string around in the circle, adding the beads in. Same thing, once you have them around in the circle, continue going through the next crescent and the next demi round. Then go back a couple beads till you get to the point that tail really wants to get in there. Go back a couple beads till you get to the point then going from the right hand hole to the left hand hole till you get to your portion that your knot starts. You can see my tail just kind of wanted to go to the base and get twisted. So I'm going to feed that up through the top here, grabbing it with my needle, pulling nice and tightly, and you're going to tie that off and get that little pumpkin crescent. We're talking about how you can make gourds and all kinds of fun stuff to make really a festive fall bracelet. Once you have that done, again, you're just going to grab your burner, burn off or down those ends, grab your head pin then and switch from your needle and your thread to your head pin. You can put a brown bead on the bottom, you can put a green bead on the bottom, green bead on the top. You don't have to put a green bead on the top. It's kind of up to you. You could even use some of your bronze beads for your stringing on it as well and create little charms. I'm just going to throw a couple more of these here at the top of these demi rounds. We're going to turn over then the wire with my round nose pliers. holding 1/8 of an inch, pushing the wire to the back, bring it over the top till it stops, flip from the top jaw to the bottom jaw. And then for this one, I'm not going to do the curly cues, so I'm just going to take the wire around the base one time there, then just grab my wire cutters, cut off that extra wire. If you need to, you can always go in then with your pliers and kind of pinch down any ends so they don't pinch on you and they don't become obnoxious as you're doing them or as you're using them. Once you have all your little pumpkins made, you can see, like I said, I did some here with 5 and did the little curly cues. We did some with 6, some with 7, some with 8, and then of course the earrings had the 9 on them as well. So you can really change up the number that you do. We're going to get ready to do our stretchy string. For the stretchy string, you're just going to go in. You can either use a bead stopper or you can just hold it with your hand. I prefer a bead stopper if you have it, but you can go in and cut the length of your wrist plus about an additional 2.5 to 3 inches. That's just going to make it nice and easy for you to hold as you're working with it. You can figure out either on a bead board or just working here on your mat exactly how many beads it's going to take to go in between your wrist size. Lay the pumpkins out in whatever design you want them to be and kind of create your little pumpkin patch here. And then we're going to string the crystals in between. To do that, again, it's basic stringing. If you want to, you can even use some of your spacers and string them in between as well. But you're just going to pick up your beads and string them on your stretchy string, going through that crystal hole here. I'm going to use about 4 beads in between each of my pumpkins. So I have my 4 beads. You can do 4 or 5, you can change it up. And I'm going to pick up one of my pumpkins. Simply string it through because we did that coiled loop. String it through the opening, and then go in and add your next 4 beads on your stretchy string. So I'm going to continue building, adding in my pumpkins in between my stretchy string to get my pumpkin patch finished. Once you're done stringing the bracelet, you can see I have my little pumpkins here. Again, I did about 4 in between. You could really load it up though and do more if you wanted to. I like to tie my knot right next to one of the loop beads or one of the charms. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie my loop. And to tie my loop, again, right next to one of my charms, I'm going to go with a square knot, right over left and then left over right. So I have my knot there, and then I'm going to switch hands from one hand to the other what I'm holding my thread. And when I hold my thread, again, I'm just switching from right to left. I'm going to tie a nice tight knot. If you do it right there where one of the charms are, you're not going to be able to see it. I then take my super glue glue, and I'm going to go in and do a little dab of glue right on that super glue glue. Let that dry a little bit, and then we're simply going to trim down the edges for it. So let that dry for a couple minutes, grab my wire cutters, and I'm going to cut going on one side and then the other side. You can also use the scissors, either way will work. And then you have your fun little pumpkin patch bracelet and matching earring design to it that it looks really cute when you put it on, that it has that fun little kind of dangly look to it, having the different pumpkins hanging there off of it. And then also the earrings look cute just to wear. It's a nice, simple, easy way to get that pumpkin look and to kind of get that pumpkin look achieved of this little pumpkin patch doing the earrings and the necklace. Again, if you, or the bracelet, you could also turn it into a necklace, obviously, and kind of put the pumpkins together as well. Change up the colors, put some of the beads in along the strand, so really kind of change up the fun little design that you're working with. If you do need any of the materials to do this pumpkin patch bracelet and earrings, you can go back to the beginning of the video to the little drop down. We're happy to send you any materials. Grab a list, go to your local Potomac Bead Company store and shop there as well. Also, if you need the materials, you can go to the bottom of the screen to a little description underneath the video. It has a little description and says what products are used by hitting the Show More button. That's a little down arrow, and it's going to give you links then to all the different materials that were used to do this fun little festive bracelet and earrings. You can always also as well share this video with a friend. Like I said, it's a good kind of quick introduction to basic beading, doing the stringing, the basic stringing, the thread and needle, and then the wire working as well. So it kind of brings in all those little designs with it. You can also subscribe to this YouTube channel and get regular updates on new products that we have, designs like this, as well as bead weaving and seed beading and loom work and wire work and kind of everything in between. We also try to interact with you guys on Facebook. You can interact with us there, as well as checking out our website, PotomacBeads.com. And also on Facebook, you can join and become a member of our beading group and kind of the beading forum to chat with everybody, which is for jewelry and, beading and jewelry making. Ask to become a member there, and you can really interact with us, have fun, show us your little pumpkins and kind of what you did. I'd love to see one of the pumpkins in kind of that white and that white suede gold and that golden and white color as well. I think that would be really, really pretty to see that pumpkin patch going on as well. So as always, everybody, thanks so much for watching, and have fun creating these pumpkin patch earrings and a little stretchy bracelet.